Hello, very warm welcome to Granada Reports. We're live with the latest across the northwest.
Yes, hello. Here's what's coming up on the programme tonight.
Risking their lives for a selfie, the Peak District rocks that are a hotspot for social media videos and photos. A huge rise in call-outs and a warning from mountain rescue teams about the danger.
The fault may be fixed, but the disruption continues. The latest advice for passengers flying in and out of the northwest.
I understand it's a bizarre circumstance, it's not their fault, but I'm with my 10-year-old daughter and I either want a bed or to go home.
The show must go on. How Rob gave Lynn a kidney to get the couple's play onto the stage.
It was a no-brainer for me. I'd always said, you know, because to me, Lynn is everything to me.
And in the weather, I'm sending you flowers this week, sunflowers, if you get the hint, but not till the weekend. All the details and what happens before coming up shortly.
First tonight, those pictures to make your stomach turn, and the people risking their lives to take these selfies and drone shots on a dangerous trail above the moors at Saddleworth. Mountain rescue teams in Oldham are warning walkers not to get caught up in this new social media craze.
Yeah, it's known as the Trinical Trail and it's become a hotspot for thrill seekers. But experts say it's dangerous if people aren't aware of changing weather conditions and slippery surfaces at the summit. Paul Crone reports.
A fun day out in the Peak District can very quickly go wrong, leading to a full-scale rescue for lost or injured walkers. And because of a rise in popularity on walking apps and social media platforms, the unofficial Trinical Trail above the Dovestones area of Saddleworth Moor has become the place to visit. Although would-be thrill seekers aren't doing anything wrong, mountain rescue officials in the area say this and trying to get that perfect selfie on the top simply isn't safe.
The so-called Trinical Trail, we've got a three-pronged pillar of rock that's very popular with people getting on top of and taking selfies, but obviously weather like today when it's raining or windy, it can be very slippy and it can catch you unawares.
Posting their Trinical Trail efforts online has led to an increase in the number of walkers coming to the area. But despite the stunning scenery, the route up to the top isn't straightforward.
There is a scramble section in Birch and Clough, or Greenfield Waterfall as it's known, where you are using your hands, your feet, knees, elbows and everything else. It does contain quite exposed sections that can catch people out.
One of the main problems is that within the space of a minute, the weather can go from bright sunlight to thick cloud. And if you're not wearing the proper gear, that can spell trouble.
If people are going out and about, we never discourage people from going out and about, but we'd encourage them to do the research, know what they're getting into, take the correct kit, know which route they're doing, fully charge the mobile phone, and know what to do in case the worst does happen.
Oldham Mountain Rescue says the team will always be there to help 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But trying to get that perfect picture of the Peak District is never worth the risk of serious injury or worse. Paul Crone, ITV News.
Yeah, never worth it. Never worth it at all.
No, take heed of those warnings.
Oh, absolutely. Dozens of flights have been cancelled in and out of the northwest today, with many more delayed as disruption continues after the bank holiday air traffic control failure.
Yeah, the original fault has been fixed, but travel bosses are still advising passengers to check with their airline before setting off for a flight. Planes and crews just simply aren't where they should be.
Claire Hannah is at Manchester Airport. Claire, what's the latest tonight?
Well, Manchester Airport is the third busiest airport in the country behind Heathrow and Gatwick, and it is the busiest time of the year. It's the summer holidays. Usually on any given day, more than 500 flights would depart this airport. Today, at least 20 were cancelled and another 40 arriving were cancelled too. Now, it is all to do with that glitch you spoke about. It's the National Air Traffic Services. What happened with that yesterday? Now, that alerts all air traffic controllers to the flights in the air and their routes. routes. That developed a fault, which meant the number of planes actually in the air had to be limited for safety reasons. And that is what led to those scenes which started yesterday and are still ongoing. Absolute chaos in airports as planes were cancelled, flights were cancelled and flights delayed, and lots of people left stranded. Now, it has affected every single airport in the UK, not just Manchester. Over in Liverpool, Ross is stuck in Mallorca, sorry. He has been trying to fly home to Liverpool. His flight was cancelled in Mallorca last night when he was on his way to the airport.
We then told that a flight rescheduled for Sunday the 3rd of September, which is a while away. We spoke to EasyJet and they said they'll sort out flights, new accommodation. They didn't sort us out new accommodation, so we ended up staying on the airport floor last night, waiting for something. Kept ringing customer service, managed to get a flight for tonight at 11 o'clock, which I've just found out the second is now delayed by 2 hours and will probably be cancelled as well. So now I'm trying to ring EasyJet and find out what we do, because I understand it's a bizarre circumstance, it's not their fault, but I'm with my 10-year-old daughter and I either want a bed or to go home.
Well, we have spoken to EasyJet about this. They've not got back to us on that yet. But Jet2, now they've had a lot of flights affected. They've been in touch to say they are working their hardest to get passengers where they need to be. They say everybody who had outbound flights cancelled will be refunded. They say other people who are due to fly out should still go to the airport unless they are told their flight has been cancelled. And they also say they're trying to put extra flights on to bring passengers who are stranded abroad back home.
And Claire, there has been a new statement from the government on this disruption that's affected so many people.
Yeah, the Transport Secretary had a meeting with the airlines, with airports, with the Civil Aviation Authority and with Air Traffic Control this afternoon. He said his priority is to make sure the passengers are where they need to be as soon as possible. He also said all the airlines were acutely aware of their responsibilities to their customers, and he said if they need government help, the government will step in.
Claire Hannah at Manchester Airport, thank you very much.
Now, if you live in a high-rise block, one of the biggest worries is the fire risk. And all of us, wherever we live, should always know exactly the best way out in an emergency. It's worth just stopping what you're doing for a minute, just have a think about that.
Yeah, a number of fire crews across Greater Manchester have spent the day talking to those who live in apartments to ensure they know what to do. Previous advice about staying put in the event of fire has changed, and they want residents to be aware of their building's evacuation procedures. Tim Scott reports.
Hi, my name's Chris from Greater Manchester Fire Rescue Service. There's my ID. We're knocking on all the flats in this building today to check you're aware of the evacuation strategy.
They're calling it a day of action. Fire and Rescue Service officers visiting residents of high-rise flats across Greater Manchester to check they're aware of what to do in the event of a fire, as well as check their fire alarms. Here in Salford, the initiative has gone down well with people living in the flats.
I think it's fantastic. I think it's really good to for the fire service to give us some information and be direct and having that communication. It's really really good in fact, yeah.
Residents here were told to stay in their flat in the event of a fire. That guidance has changed though. Instead, they now need to evacuate. The officers are checking people are aware of the change and also whether their fire alarms are in working order.
Nothing's happening. Do you mind if I take that down and have a quick look at it? So basically it's not plugged in.
We have heard before of fires in this building and you do think, okay, I need to test my alarm, and I guess you also don't really think it'll happen to you either, but it's just a reminder that actually, you know, it's so important.
Okay, so here today we are basically carrying out a community engagement day. It's high-rise day of actions. So we've got our teams visiting properties in Bolton, Manchester Central, Salford, where we are very much just discussing evacuation protocols with our residents in high-rise properties.
Around 120 buildings across Greater Manchester are being checked by Fire and Rescue, with more to follow in the coming weeks and months. Tim Scott, ITV News, Salford.
Yeah, make sure you check those smoke alarms.
Yeah, very important. Make sure they're working. Test, test, test. Now, a teenager from Warrington says she's struggling to access basic services like the dentist or opticians due to a shortage of skilled British Sign Language interpreters.
Yeah, it's been over a year since the British Sign Language Act was passed, meaning the government must make it easier for people to use BSL.
But across the country, there's only one interpreter for every 53 deaf people, meaning demand far outstrips supply. Catherine Walker has been investigating.
14-year-old Lucy was born deaf and uses British Sign Language. Under the law, she should be given access to an interpreter, especially when it comes to her health or education. But at a recent trip to A&E, she was told one wasn't available.
It has a big knock-on effect on my confidence, and it makes you feel quite alone and quite sad and angry and just stressed when you go to things and kind of worry about it, going to appointments and things. Don't understand what people are saying to me. There's no communication there, so it's really, really hard.
Mum Lindsay says it's a reoccurring problem.
You can't book an appointment for Lucy and then be kind of at ease with going to that appointment and knowing full well that that interpreter's going to be there 100%. It takes a lot of phoning up for me or, emailing back and forth. She shouldn't have to fight to have her information about herself in her language.
The latest figures show that BSL is the first language of over 2,800 people in the North West and 87,000 deaf people across the UK. But on average, there's only one interpreter for every 53 deaf people, meaning demand far outstrips supply.
Having a skilled, qualified, registered interpreter in the room achieves inclusion. They're able to have a voice, be empowered, be an independent citizen in that moment. We need to have more sign language interpreters who represent the communities that they are engaging with.
Addressing this shortage is a priority for the British Deaf Association. But there's no quick fix, as training new interpreters takes around 7 years.
I think the government are not doing enough. They could do much more. We believe that first they need statutory regulation. So regulation of the industry would mean the interpreter quality will increase. Secondly, the government needs to invest more in interpreters as well, but also more into teachers to teach people to become interpreters. That is paramount and should be a priority.
In a statement, the government told ITV News they have set up an advisory board to work out how they can increase the number of qualified BSL interpreters.
Yeah, can you make sure that interpreter is booked for the session, please? Thank you, yeah.
But until there's a strategy in place, Lucy and her mum say they won't stop fighting for her basic rights to be met. Catherine Walker, ITV News.
Well, you remember it was the former West Lancashire MP Rosie Cooper who was behind the BSL bill. That was the bill that led to British Sign Language being legally recognised. She's disappointed by Lucy's experience.
She now runs Merseycare and told us if NHS trusts can't find interpreters, the government should be stepping in.
I mean, this is now a legally recognised language, and hospitals have a duty. Would you imagine going to a job centre and not be able to talk to explain why you've arrived? Your life depends on getting this communication right. So no, people can, must and should find a way. And if the local trusts can't do it, then the Secretary of State needs to help them.
OK, on to motorcycling now, which returned to the Isle of Man at the weekend, this time in the form of the Manx Grand Prix.
Unlike the TT, this race gives more amateur riders the opportunity to compete around the mountain course, and it also attracts well-known riders back to the island as well.
But this weekend was extra special as the event celebrated its 100th anniversary. Joshua Stokes reports.
Celebrating a century of racing from the past right the way up to present day. As riders old and new gathered in the Isle of Man to commemorate 100 years of the Manx Grand Prix.
For me, I'm still a fan. To listen to them come down there like... I just want to support it.
Events aren't around for 100 years if they're not any good. It's special to see those bikes out there, you know, brought great memories back for me, and I'm sure it brings great memories back for other people as well who've been through the journey.
Much like the TT though, the MGP isn't without its dangers. 33-year-old Gary Vines and 69-year-old Ian Bainbridge both died this year competing on the course, an inherent risk riders say they're willing to take.
You don't really think about the risk. You can't just go and get on a motorbike and ride 180 mile an hour anywhere. The TT course is the best place in the world to race a motorbike, and there's nothing that can explain that.
Nathan grew up on the island, and the MGP gave him his big break into the TT.
Amateur riders can't go straight into the TT, so it gives them a chance to build up their TT course knowledge and then go on to race at the TT as they get quicker and more confident. I won the Manx Grand Prix and went to the TT, and then it's got me to where I am today. So, I think it's a big thing.
A thought shared by others who live here, where road racing is an integral part of island life.
It means a lot, it really does. And I still have to pinch myself to realise that we're here at 100 years. It's just crept up on us. And I'm hoping it's going to go for another 100 years.
It may not have the prestige of the TT, but thousands of bikers have travelled once again from all over the world to witness this special centenary year.
It's brilliant just to have the camaraderie that bikers have. You can hear the conversations. They're from all over the world. Most of them have just met each other. The glue that holds it together is the machines. They start talking about the machines and then all their war stories come out.
It's different bikes, different countries, different people we meet, different people we talk to. It's a massive experience.
An experience that keeps fans coming back every year, concluding a festival commemorating a century of speed and rounding off another summer of Manx motorsport. Joshua Stokes, ITV News in the Isle of Man.
Yeah, the stunning Isle of Man there. OK, let's get the details of the ITV News at 6:30 from Gamal now.
Chaos continues at UK airports as thousands of passengers remain stranded. Despite air traffic control faults being fixed, delays and cancellations are expected to last for days. Also, we'll bring you a special report from the Mediterranean, where doctors scramble to save migrants attempting the perilous crossing. And Lioness Ella Toone speaks to ITV about the Spanish kiss controversy and how it's overshadowed the World Cup. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
We will.
We will, yes. Now, a couple from Liverpool who produce plays together say the show must go on after, get this, one donated a kidney to the other.
What a partnership these two are. Rob Fenner and Lynn McDermott were rehearsing for a production of By the Waters of Liverpool when Lynn found out she needed a transplant.
Rob says he didn't hesitate to give her one of his kidneys. Victoria Grimes has been to meet the couple.
In any show, those backstage are as vital as those on it. So when producer Lynn found out she needed a new kidney, her first thought was not for herself.
As far as I'm concerned, the show must go on.
Diagnosed with chronic kidney disease 30 years ago, a transplant was inevitable. But Lynn never expected it to come from her partner, Rob.
It was a no-brainer for me. I'd always said, you know, because to me, Lynn is everything to me. They said, well, you're not a perfect match, but you match enough. So, you know, we can do the op in March. Now, we had this show on the go.
And, you know, we've got a cast and crew that we want to look after. We wanted to make sure that the show was going to go on no matter what. So we sort of kept it under wraps because we didn't want to worry anybody.
Even our own family, it's probably going to be a shock to some of the family watching this.
The production of By the Waters of Liverpool's already had its share of setbacks. Forced to close during the pandemic, a second run was then cancelled when the Epstein Theatre closed. Luckily, the auditorium at the M&S Arena stepped in to help with the new venue. Well, the cast are now back in rehearsals, and even the famous faces amongst them were stunned when they heard what their producers had been going through.
I don't think I've ever heard that kind of news from anybody before. It's you know, that's thrown in the conversation like that. And the way it was done was, oh, this has happened and this happened to me, and yet we're carrying on because we loved the show. And it was quite humbling actually to hear that.
It's a testament to the type of people that they are and the resilience that they have, really. So yeah, to hear it was
was obviously big news.
Don't let that right hand of yours drop, Wilfred.
It's just, I can't get my head around it, if I'm honest. It's just amazing. It's just absolutely amazing. What incredible people.
What would your message be to anybody that's going through something like you guys have been through?
We want to make sure that we manage to get it on and let everybody know that nothing will stop us from getting that show on the road.
It wasn't anywhere near as scary as we thought it was going to be. You're out of hospital before you know it, and you're on with your new life, then you're on with another life, you know, and that's the key. And if anyone's watching this, you know, try not to be too panicky, because as you know, we're walking around putting a show on, yeah.
Lynn and Rob are both doing well after surgery and ready for opening night in September before a nationwide tour. Victoria Grimes, ITV News, Liverpool.
Absolutely brilliant. Well done to Rob and Lynn. And just a reminder there, By the Waters of Liverpool opens next Monday at the M&S Arena. Well, now let's take a look at the weather, which is looking like a bit of a mixture. Emma has the details.
Have you burnt tea again?
I'm scraping the cooled oil into the bin, not the sink.
Can we eat outside? It's nice.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello there, I hope you had a great day. It was a mix of clouds, some sunny spells, a few showers as well, and it's the same old as we head into tomorrow too. And then after a tricky Thursday, Friday, potentially could be in for a fine weekend, so there's a glimmer of hope on the horizon. Also, tomorrow night looks like it's going to be clear enough for a good view of the super blue moon. The blue moon part meaning that it's the second full moon within a month. It usually occurs once every 2.5 years or thereabouts, and it's going to be one of the largest and brightest full moons of 2023, so it might be worth a look. On then to the weather detail, low pressure in charge into tomorrow. Then it's all eyes on the system out to the west here, which is giving us a few forecaster headaches and a few question marks over the timing and location of it, but this is the best steer that we have at the moment. It looks like a fairly decent start, or at least a dry start, a cloudy one to Thursday, and then all downhill later in the afternoon with that rain arriving, similar into Friday as well, staying showery, but then fingers crossed the high pressure building in for the weekend. Overnight tonight though, showers continue to sink southwards, one or two clearer spells in between. These showers could be a bit heavier than they were today as well. No mist and fog problems, temperatures similar to last night's values. Light winds generally away from the showers, but gusty, especially as we go into tomorrow around any showers, gusts of 30-35 miles an hour. Talking of tomorrow, sun's up at 6:15, sets at 7 minutes past 8. It's going to start off on Wednesday brighter compared to today, but the showers breaking out. These could be heavy, could be a rumble of thunder in there too, particularly late morning, early afternoon time, but everything settles down later in the afternoon. Showery Thursday, Friday, fine for the weekend. Bye-bye.
It's a little bit burnt.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Thanks, Emma. That's it for now. I'm back with an update after news at 10.
Tomorrow, though, be sure to join us because we're joined in studio by the amazing Lucy Hobson. She's just climbed Mont Blanc to raise money for guide dogs, and she's bringing in her lovely guide dog, Jenny.
Guide dogs, always great. Thanks for watching. Have a nice night. Bye. Guide dog.